I'm Mike Fuge, I'm Chief Operating Officer of Genesis Energy. It's good to be here today. And what I want to do, just very briefly, is give you a number of different perspectives, which leads us to a conundrum which I think not only as a company but as an industry which we are struggling with. Not struggling with, because we all have very different views. Traditionally, the industry, we've been about big toys. I'm an engineer by background and I love building these things. There's that great, there's some absolutely gorgeous locations here. Tekapo, the lake's a bit full, the canal at the moment it's a little bit dry because we've emptied it, we're relining it. Huntly Power Station, strong culture in New Zealand of keeping the lights on, really about robustness, haven't always gone on with our Greenpeace friends. A couple tried to climb the chimney a few years ago. And Rangipo Power Station, which looks like something straight out of James Bond. And traditional approach, and certainly in the generation that my parents grew up, it was all about robustness of supply, building big things so that we avoided those things that our parents grew up with in the 60s and 70s called brownouts. Though if you were a customer sitting in a room that was completely black, I don't know why you would believe it was a brownout. And it's been about robustness of supply. And that leads us to where we are today, and these graphs are going to tell a very intellectual story, but they also tell about an opportunity which is probably more human in its response. That red line is what we've installed, the blue line is what typically on a day we have, and therein lies an opportunity. We see it as tremendous opportunity. Now, if you've worked in some of the countries I've worked in around the world, in benign dictatorships, and I listened to that discussion around the Labour government, the previous Labour government, the simple answer for a government was simply to move the line down about here somewhere, and then we're back to that situation of the 60s and 70s. But we live in a very different world where possibly in a modern democracy that isn't acceptable. But the other thing which has happened, and actually this isn't quite the graph I wanted, this is a graph of GDP growth versus electricity demand, and it's driven our thinking since the turn of since electricity really became a mass market proposition. And that is GDP growth is invariably linked to electricity demand growth. And that link has been with us since the end of the First World War. And it's driven the thinking of governments through and through and through. What happened in 2007 was a global financial crisis, and the energy industry saw for the first time a de-link between GDP growth and energy demand growth. People were tight for cash. If you're paying $2,500 to $4,000 for your electricity bill, you can save 10%, $400. That's a one-way ticket to Australia, and 40,000 of those are taking up that opportunity every year. But we do see what's been surprising is actually that link has not come back. And we are no longer forecasting for that link to come back. And that GDP is growing, but energy demand is not growing. So that excess of supply over demand is with us to stay. And as an industry, we're grappling with that. That's a fact to keep in your head. The other thing that's happened is we've got on and deployed smart meters as an industry. We've got on to do it. Probably haven't done it the way in a purest sense. We haven't engaged in a sort of technology crusade. We haven't mandated it. We've just done it as individual companies. I think Bill Hite's going to be here later. Meridian have done their thing. We've deployed through Vector 300,000 metres. We're going to get to 500,000 metres. The game's over. Those meters are on the sides of the house. That technology debate's open. Smart meters are with us today, now. And we've gone from engaging with our customers once every 2 months when the meter reader's gone down to potentially engaging with our customers every 30 minutes or in real time, if we want that. That is a fundamental shift, very fundamental shift. The thing about that meter that is probably not quite true, number one, it's open. Number two, it's in a very accessible part of the house. And number three, I have kids. My son would never stand next to a meter and have his son photo taken. Which sort of leads you to that next problem, is that we have had deregulation for the past 15 years in New Zealand, and the fact of the matter is, and all credit to our competitors who may be here today, the fact is people really do see us as very much the same. When I came into this industry, as I was leaving telecommunications, the head of marketing in Jedi came to me and said, Mike, you have to understand two things. Number one, in marketing, sex always sells, and number two, no one falls in love with a utility company. And you can pretty much see that borne out there, and that we're the best of the bad bunch. And just as you won't get teenagers standing next to meters, you won't get consumers or customers actively engaging. And that's possibly because of the mindset from which we've come. We've been solving problems, the engineers, and we haven't viewed the people who use electricity as customers, we've simply viewed them as consumers. And there is a fundamental difference. They use our power, can't really tell the difference between the electrons, and we send them a bill. And that's the extent of the relationship. The reality is that we're now living in one of the most competitive markets in the world. We have between 20 to 21% churn. That clearly has tapped into a well of dissatisfaction with the way customers have been treated in New Zealand. It also costs the industry a hell of a lot. If you think of, just do the numbers in your head, probably 2 million ICPs customers in this country. Every time one of those churns between the various entities who arrange that churn, it costs between $150 to $200. So if 20% are churning, there is a significant cost to the industry. There is a significant motivation to engage again with customers. Now, obviously with smart meters, the holy grail was the tariff, multi-rate tariff. Let's find a mechanism by which we can get the customer to move their load and engage so that we don't have to carry on building plant based on potential demand but actual demand. So we have to engage with the customer. And you think, as an engineer, you've got the meter, you've got the economics, which are clearly there, you have the technology. Should be easy. And the reality is some of the previous presentations have highlighted that doesn't really happen. We've actually got to reorientate ourselves and put the customer at the centre. So we went out and we talked to our customers and we said, well, what would make you engage? And these are not technology problems. These are, be useful, make it easy for me, be relevant to me and my family, give me the tools to manage it better. And so that gave us a bit of a clue. So we launched, and you may have heard it, Tomorrow Street. We were engaged with 15 families and said, look, there's a whole lot of whizmos and gizmos out there in the market, including smart meters and the various technology. How about we engage with you? And we set that up last year, and the results have been interesting. We're just going to get them through. We've tried a whole combination of appliances. We've put photovoltaics on a couple of houses. We've re-insulated actually a surprising number of houses given the demographic of the houses where they're located. And we've tested multi-rate tariffs in November. Now, without the multi-rate tariffs, just with the engagement model, we've seen month-on-month savings of 13%, sometimes peaking at 23% across those 15 families in a month. So the savings are significant. They will pay for that one-way ticket to Australia, which we all seem to want. And we can now, quite bluntly, and this is where my argument comes, look, the meter is irrelevant, it can grow cobwebs. What's important is the data and the services that you can overlay on that meter and provide to the customer. And so we can provide to the customer energy use by week, by day, and by hour. And actually this is my one, and you can see when my son went to the fridge at 1 o'clock in the morning to steal some cake, but we'll take that from there. So the technology is there. And we have seen some very good results. And we actually, we talk about home displays and in-house displays. And again, it's one of those technology discussions that the wonderful world of invention and innovation just bypasses it. There's your next in-house display, your in-home display. Smartphones will have 100% penetration, we expect, by the end of this year or next year, depending on the telecommunications industry. So the question I've got, and I want to put it to you guys, given that very potted history of electricity industry, where we are today, technology, and the disruptive nature of technology innovation, what will make a difference such that the goals of this forum can actually be achieved? Thank you.